This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Coming up on Sports Scene, delayed games. Chinese athletes shine at the postponed 2020 Tokyo Summer Olympics that signaled a return of international sporting events. CMG's Top 10. The China Media Group compiles a list of some of the biggest and most exciting moments from 2021 in the world of sports. And winter is coming. The Beijing Winter Olympics organizers march ahead with preparations for the 2022 Games that begin on February 4th. Hello and welcome to Sports Scene's special year-end program entitled 2021 Sports Are Back. Our focus will be on how the world's various competitions mostly returned to their usual rhythm over the past 12 months while also making the adjustments needed to navigate the pandemic. My name is Greg Lafredi, and joining me on my right is my fellow Sports Scene host, Wong Dong. So Dong, it's been another difficult year for the world of sports, but with the pandemic and everything else, certainly sports and the return of it made things better.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right on the mark, really. After the postponements and cancellations of 2020, the sporting landscape got back to some kind of normalcy over the past 12 months, albeit with a lot of changes and, in most cases, few to no fans in the stadiums. But with so many people stuck at home and unable to travel, sports on TV or other platforms was certainly a welcome sign, a welcome return to some familiar entertainment.
And top of that list would certainly have to be in major competitions postponed by 1 year, the 2020 Tokyo Summer Olympics that, of course, took place in 2021, and we want to start with a look at those games. The delay came to an end when the 32nd Summer Olympics took place in the Japanese capital from July 23rd to August 8th, after becoming the first modern games to be pushed back during peacetime. Simply holding the competition under such challenging circumstances already made the global sporting showcase a success, and during his remarks at the opening ceremony, International Olympic Committee President Thomas Bach focused on the power of sports to unite the world as humanity worked to move past the global health crisis. Some analysts also noted that the Tokyo Games served as a fitting introduction point for the Olympic movement's revised motto, faster, higher, stronger, together, with a record-setting 11,309 athletes from 206 nations and regions taking part. China's athletes won a total of 88 medals to secure the second position in the medal table with 38 gold, 32 silver, and 18 bronze, while breaking 4 world records in the process.
Well, actually, now joining us in the studio is my colleague and sports scene reporter Jiang Mengxi, who was actually in Tokyo to cover the games for CGTN. Mengxi, welcome aboard.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here to share my story in Tokyo.
Absolutely. Real, at the Olympics, Mengxi was able to talk to many Chinese athletes, including more than 20 medalists, if I'm not mistaken. And due to the ban on spectators in Tokyo, he was also among some lucky ones or lucky birds right there who actually got to watch some of the events live. So before we get to Mengxi for more questions and also his insight, let's take a look quickly back at some of the more candid and humorous moments captured by our sports scene team while talking to China's gold medalists during the games.
他们都是读书，然后出来就工作这样。因为我比较的成熟。
要不换回来试试？不一样。
sharpshooter Yang Jian was just simply lovely. Mengxi, when I said lucky bird, definitely you were one of them because we would like to go, but due to the obvious reason we couldn't. So let me start first. Really, what was the overall your impression of the Chinese delegation in Tokyo during that period, and also what stood out most to you?
Yeah, indeed. I was the lucky one to be able to report the Olympics in Japan this year, and I interviewed around 20 medalists, including 12 gold medalists from China, and they had a brilliant performance there in Tokyo, and even though most of them have been away from international competitions for over 1 year due to the pandemic, but they managed to keep their shape really well and managed to stand on the podium. It's already a great achievement for them.
Right.
And also, there were no fans there, so they need to accomplish all the things on their own. And for some of the athletes who were born after the year of 2000, and they were pretty talkative while they were interviewed by me.
Right.
I found out there is a huge difference from the Chinese athletes like 4 years ago than those Chinese athletes are now, because they're pretty talkative, they're always ready to show.
More relaxed, right? More engaging, right?
Yeah, and China grabbed 38 gold medals in Tokyo, which is their best Olympic performance in an overseas Olympics, only second to their performance at Beijing 2008, which I think is also because of their good mood there.
Man, hearing you talk about these athletes born after 2000 is making me feel a bit old. I don't know about you, but
prehistory, yeah.
These Tokyo Olympics will, of course, go down in history as one of the most unique games, and not necessarily for the best reasons, of course, it taking place with the backdrop of the pandemic. But it also marked a return of global sporting events. Tell us about your experience with the pandemic situation, the protocols that you had to go through as a journalist at the Games, and just what it was like without fans at one of the biggest sporting events in the world.
Yeah, indeed, because I was there to report the Games, and one of the preconditions is I have to abide by the rules of the IOC. I have to abide by the health protocols there. Well, first of all, I want to say the Olympics, it signals the return of the sports internationally. Of course, that you can say that we have the UEFA Nations League, the Euro Championship earlier. They had already been held earlier in the year, but the Olympics is supposed to bring the world together.
Right.
It's not only held on a continental level, it was held on the world level. So it's pretty good that we can see the Olympics being held in Tokyo. And even though there were not fans inside the stadium, but I think the competition, the level of the competition wasn't dragged down that much due to the lack of atmosphere, that we have to say at the end, the sports are back.
I think you're absolutely right. And you mentioned also some of these other continental contests that did return. So in some ways, we as the sporting audience, we're getting a bit used to not seeing fans there, and perhaps the athletes, they really took it in stride, as you said.
Right.
Now, in addition to China's many achievements at the Games, there were also some great performances from international athletes. Wang Dong, I want to ask you first, what were some of the most inspiring or the best moments from international athletes from those Games for you?
How many hours do we have? It's going to be such a long list, really. But I think one particular lady who struck me most definitely was Jordan Larson from the United States women's volleyball team. The skipper, the captain, if you will, did so well. Before the Olympics, she was in China playing for the Shanghai team in the National League here, Super League. And then afterwards, she went back to the States to, under the circumstances, to do training and so forth, ferociously. And then during the Olympics, she was only actually 34, but now, of course, she has already turned 35. But given that at that age, she was so determined with her unflinching determination, single-handedly leading the United States team to the top podium by defeating Serbia, and also by defeating China, the then defending champions, and of course, in the end, Brazil. and to really realize her own personal dream, to realize her team's dream right there was absolutely stunning. And of course, right now, speaking of which, she's still in China, back to China, playing again for Shanghai, and right now in the Super League, and they will try to really go to the semifinals and perhaps to the final by defeating the defending champions Tianjin. Fingers crossed for her. But definitely, she is the lady right there, and I think we have got so much to learn from her.
Well, Mengxi, same question goes to you. Which international athlete really stood out for you at the Tokyo Games?
Right.
The first names I have to say occurring to my mind is Tamberi and Barshim. Those two high jumpers, they shared gold medals in the men's high jump final. And what I have to say that they showcased sportsmanship because the results of those two high jumpers were tied at the end, but they finally decided not to take the playoff, and they finally shared the top glory all together.
Am I right? One is from Qatar, and the other one is from Italy, right?
From Italy, right. They're from different countries, and they finally decided to take the honor together. So that's, I think, is pretty much united by emotions.
Incredible moment, certainly, and one that does not happen too often at the pinnacle of any sport. Mengxi, I want to say thank you very much for joining us and your time and recounting these stories from what was really a unique Summer Olympics.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, really. All these beautiful and unforgettable moments. And following the Tokyo Olympics, the postponed Paralympics were held from August 24th through September the 5th. And China finished at the top of the medal table for the 5th consecutive times, a streak that started in 2004 in Athens. China's delegation earned 96 gold medals and 207 medals in total, while breaking 29 world records. The nation's Paralympians maintained their stellar form in traditional disciplines like track and field, swimming, table tennis, and wheelchair fencing. Meanwhile, badminton made its Paralympic debut, with Chinese athletes clinching 5 gold medals from 14 events. China's teams also made solid progress with silver medals in women's wheelchair basketball, women's sitting volleyball, and men's goalball. More than 40% of the Chinese athletes were taking part in the Paralympics for the first time, and the youngest delegation member, 17-year-old Jiang Yuyan, claimed 4 medals in swimming. Besides the competitions, the athletes showed commendable qualities like goodwill, tenacity, and devotion in and away from their sports to leave a long-lasting positive impression in Tokyo.
You're watching Sports Scene's special year-end show 2021. Sports are back, and after a short break, we've got a traditional summation of the year's highlights. CMG's Top 10, the China Media Group compiles a list of some of the biggest and most exciting moments from 2021 in the world of sports.
Each day, there are millions of stories. Each one can open new perspectives, new possibilities. Wherever you look, we are there. To see, discover, explore. We put the pieces together to find what really matters to you. All around the world, all around the clock. Our reporters are at home across the globe. From our headquarters in Beijing and production centers in Washington, Nairobi, and London, China Global Television Network. Stories from across the globe, reaching people across the globe. CGTN. See the difference.
Our special year-end program, 2021 Sports Are Back, resumes with 2 of the world's biggest football tournaments, which were delayed by a year by the pandemic. But the European Championship and Copa America may have been postponed, but with the 2 finals ending a couple of long title droughts, the wait made the wins even sweeter for Italy and Argentina. Sports Scene's Damian Jones has more.
UEFA refused to let the coronavirus pandemic completely derail long-standing plans to stage Euro 2020 as a continental tribute to 60 years of the championship. The matches were pushed back 12 months, but still held in 11 cities, with spectator attendance dictated by local health guidelines. The final at Wembley Stadium wrapped up with Italy stunning host England 3-2 on penalty kicks, and coach Roberto Mancini hoping the end of a 53-year dry spell would bring some measure of happiness to fans of the Azzurri.
We did something. I don't know. We haven't realized it yet. But we're happy for our people, for Italians who deserve this after such a difficult period. And this is our joy, in addition to the fact that we played really well.
COVID-19's impact was also felt at the Copa America, where in addition to a 12-month delay, CONMEBOL's assessment of local conditions led to all games being moved to Brazil from original co-hosts Argentina and Colombia. But that change did not deter the Argentines on the pitch, where they edged the Brazilians 1-0 in the final at the Maracanã Stadium. That gave the Albiceleste their first international title in 28 years, while Captain Lionel Messi finally lifted a major trophy with his national team. Damian Jones, CGTN.
Well, it's really tough to talk about South American football and certainly Argentina without mentioning that last name, Lionel Messi.
Right.
His finally achieved glory at a major international tournament with his country, something that was really lacking from his resume, if anything could be said that. And then he went and added to it, of course. His season in La Liga with Barcelona wasn't the best, but he still finished as the league's top scorer. With that and the Argentina achievement at Copa America, he won a record-extending 7th Ballon d'Or to really put some distance between himself and Cristiano Ronaldo, who is stuck on 5 Ballon d'Ors. And you know, Ronaldo was not too pleased about that, and he and Portugal didn't have the best luck at Euro 2020, did they?
Exactly. No, they didn't really. I mean, so for Ronaldo, of course, this year he has, moved to Man U, and obviously it is a good move so far and being pretty successful. However, as far as his team, as you just mentioned, Portugal led by him, 4 years ago they did so well. It's like a Cinderella story. They defeated France on French soil, and surprisingly, by lifting that trophy. About 4 years later, it's a different story. When people were expecting them to do well, they didn't even get to really move further. In the last 16, they lost to Belgium, sadly speaking, and that was something very disappointing to Cristiano Ronaldo. But the other thing I need to mention throughout this whole tournament, I guess, it's heart-wrenching, however, it's very touching. That is definitely that player right there, Eriksen. We're talking about Christian Eriksen. When he fell down the pitch, and we were really so nervous. We didn't want to see the thing we didn't want to see. And his teammates really were so united by circling around him, by holding hand by hand, by giving him some privacy when they tried to rescue him, everything. I was really moved to tears at that moment.
It was terrifying, and actually the team's captain, Denmark's team captain, Simone Kjær, was credited with helping to come to his aid before the medics got onto the field and helped save his life.
Right.
So really a startling scene, and it puts in perspective.
Right, and also, thankfully, it was a Cinderella story, or shall we say a fairy tale story for Denmark when they actually went all the way through to the semifinals. And by, of course, in the semifinals rather, they lost to England. But really, perhaps people at the very beginning didn't expect them to do so well in the tournament. Right. But anyway, move on now. So in tennis, which is another, of course, unforgettable year, getting back to normal in 2021 included the oldest Grand Slam. Wimbledon was cancelled last year amid the pandemic. And as Sports Scene's Damian Jones again reports, the comeback edition at the All England Club saw Novak Djokovic continue to rewrite history books with another historic achievement.
With Wimbledon back on the schedule in 2021, after being called off due to the coronavirus pandemic 1 year earlier, Novak Djokovic fulfilled his childhood dream of one day becoming arguably the greatest tennis player in history by clinching a record-equaling 20th Grand Slam title. Serbia's world number 1 drew level with his great rivals, Switzerland's Roger Federer and Spain's Rafael Nadal, whom he'd been chasing since lifting his first major trophy at the 2008 Australian Open after completing a 4-set victory over Italy's Matteo Berrettini in this year's final at the All England Club. 2 months later, Emma Raducanu became the first British woman to claim a Grand Slam singles crown since 1977 after defeating Canada's Leylah Fernandez in the US Open final. As an 18-year-old ranked 150th in the world and competing in just her 4th tour-level main draw, she did not drop a set, en route to becoming the first qualifier in history to hold up a major trophy.
I'm extremely surprised that I won 10 matches because the level is so high at the Grand Slams. I wasn't expecting it at all. So in a way, it is a bit of a fairy tale story. But I faced a lot of challenges and adversity, even though I won in straight sets. In all of those sets, they were very close matches and very close moments where the match could have gone either way.
And the 2021 World Table Tennis Championships saw Chinese players grab 4 of the 5 titles on offer in Houston. China and the USA also joined forces to enter 2 combined teams in the mixed doubles competition, with the duo of China's Lin Gaoyuan and the USA's Lily Zhang reaching the podium by earning bronze. That showing gave the host country its first medal finish at this event since 1959 and helped highlight the 50th anniversary of ping pong diplomacy, which was a bilateral milestone that helped normalize Sino-American relations. Damian Jones, CGTN.
Up next on our special year-end program, 2021 Sports are back. We have a review of the biggest international stories from the past 12 months. Here is CGTN's Rory Cohen with a look at the China Media Group's 10 most memorable moments from around the world of sports.
The word together was added to the Olympic motto, which now reads faster, higher, stronger, together, after the change was unanimously approved on July 20th at the 138th IOC session to recognise the unifying power of sports and the importance of solidarity. The Tokyo Summer Olympics and Paralympics were staged from July through September after a 1-year postponement caused by the coronavirus pandemic, although most of the competitions were held without spectators. Thomas Bach was re-elected to an additional 4-year term as president of the International Olympic Committee on March 10th during the 137th IOC session, with his time in office now set to run through 2025. On December 2nd, the 76th session of the United Nations General Assembly adopted the Beijing Winter Olympics Truce Resolution, which was drafted by China and the IOC and co-sponsored by 173 member states. With UEFA Euro 2020 delayed by 12 months due to the pandemic, Italy's 3-2 penalty shootout win over England following a 1-1 draw in the final at Wembley Stadium gave the team its first title in the event since 1968, breaking a 53-year drought. Novak Djokovic set a new tennis benchmark of 311 weeks at world number 1 on March 8. The Serbian won the Australian Open, French Open and Wimbledon in 2021 to match Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal's record of 20 Grand Slam titles, and has now spent 353 weeks on top. Bayern Munich won the delayed FIFA Club World Cup final with a 1-0 victory over Mexico's Tigre on February 11th, and became only the second side to win all 6 available titles within a year, after Barcelona previously set the standard in 2009. Norway's Karsten Warholm broke the 29-year-old 400-metre hurdles world record at a Diamond League event in Oslo on July 1st, and later lowered the mark to 45.94 seconds at the Tokyo Summer Olympics, en route to being named World Athletics Male Athlete of the Year. The city of Brisbane was awarded the right to host the 2032 Summer Olympics in a July 21st vote at the 138th IOC session. Australia has already staged the Games on 2 other occasions, in Melbourne in 1956 and Sydney in 2000. And on April 19th, a dozen football clubs from the English Premier League, Spanish La Liga and Italian Serie A announced they would form a new venture dubbed the European Super League, before the effort collapsed when most of the sides withdrew amid a fierce public backlash.
Images may appear to be identical, but looks can be deceiving. the difference is not always obvious. It has to be discovered. There are always different sides to a story. We put the focus on the details. To see more, to understand better. CGTN. See the difference.
Hello again. 2021 Sports Are Back continues with our recap of the 14th National Games of China, which took place in Xi'an, along with the 11th National Para Games and 8th National Special Olympics. And we are now very happy to be joined by our colleague and sports scene reporter Zhu Mandan, who was able to cover the competition in Shanxi province. Mandan, great to have you with us.
Thanks for having me. I'm very privileged to witness these athletes' performances, and as they've done so well in Tokyo, but they didn't disappoint us back home.
Indeed, absolutely. They did so well, and we'll get more insight on China's 14th National Games from Mandan in just a few minutes. But first, let's have a look back at some of the biggest highlights from all of the competitions in Xi'an.
咱们国内的一个射击水平它是非常高的，就是不亚于世界比赛。
我的个人第4届全运会，然后连续3届夺得这个项目的金牌吧。
从奥运会到全运会之间，我是训练上在调整，就是没有进行过多的强度了。其实心态上并没有得到放松，就因为奥运会之后关注度提升了。反而自己的一言一行都要注意。
I think it's the power of dreams. I know I have realized my dream by winning gold in Tokyo, but I will continue to work hard. I hope in 3 years I can compete in Paris. I hope I can compete at the next National Games too.
我觉得一个是坚持吧，还有一个努力，还有一个拼，这3个要求我一直都印在我自己心里面，所以每场比赛我都很拼。
4届全运会之后完成自己的梦想，很久了。我昨天还在想，我算了一下，我5个月没有见我的儿子了。
So marvelous performances by these athletes from China. So Mandan, my question to you really is, this is the history, making time really. First time in history that Chinese national games were held in the same year when Olympics were held as well. So by doing so, how did it affect Chinese athletes' performance in the games? This must be very challenging to them.
So the National Games happens every 4 years like the Olympics. Normally, there's a 1-year gap between the 2 tournaments.
Right.
But because of the pandemic, Tokyo 2020 Olympics was postponed for 1 year, and that narrows the gap to just 37 days. And that's very challenging for the athletes in some events because, like in diving and table tennis, athletes' pressure in these events are no less than in the international tournaments.
Right.
So they have to maintain their sporting forms to be able to perform equally as well in the domestic sports meet.
Now, Mandan, with the national games taking place so soon after the Tokyo Olympics, not to mention the mandatory quarantine period that athletes have to go through returning to China, how did Chinese athletes fare in their country's biggest domestic meeting?
With a tight schedule like this, people would expect these athletes to cut down on their events. But surprisingly, most of the athletes actually maintained their old plans, like China's new butterfly queen Zhang Yufei, who won 2 golds and 2 silvers at the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, which is the most medals won by a single athlete in a Chinese delegation. She signed up for 8 events at the National Games, and then won 4 golds as well. Another swimmer, Wang Shun, he won 6 golds at the National Games and set a new record in swimming with 15 golds in his career. And in diving, Quan Hongchan, Zhang Jiaqi, they did incredibly well. And actually, there's only one event who wasn't won by the Tokyo champions, which is the women's 3-meter springboard. And in weightlifting, 6 Olympic champions participated. Only Yu Xiaojun dropped out because of an injury. And so, in conclusion, 50 Olympic champions have participated at the national games. Only 6 of them didn't get a gold medal performance at the national games.
Well, an exhausting but amazing and obviously very rewarding period for Chinese athletes, some of the best, not just in the country, but in the whole world.
Indeed.
In their respective
And then they successfully maintained their great form there.
That's right. Mandan, thank you very much for joining us and keeping us recapping those incredible moments of the National Games.
Thanks for having me.
Now, still to come on Sports Scene's special year-end show, 2021 Sports are back. After a brief break, we're going to take a look at the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics. Preparation process. We take a look at some of the key moments that the Beijing Organizing Committee gets ready for the Games that begin on February 4th. Sports Scene's special year-end program, 2021 Sports Are Back, moves forward with a look ahead to the Beijing Winter Olympics, where China's capital will make history as the first city to host both the Summer and the Winter Games.
Yeah, indeed. And staging such a massive global sporting event takes years of hard work and preparation, and that was only made more difficult by the pandemic. But it did not seem to slow down the Beijing Organizing Committee.
That's right, indeed. Everything has been on schedule, and as we head into the final sprint before the opening ceremony on February 4th, CGTN's Qi Jie reviews some of the key moments in the process from the preceding 12 months.
This past February the 4th saw the Beijing 2022 organizers unveil an ethereal yet dynamic torch design to mark the one-year countdown to the Games. The flying torch motif evokes memories of the main cauldron from the 2008 Games, which resembled a giant scroll highlighting the Olympic spirit's legacy in the host city. Meanwhile, the preparations for the Winter Paralympics also remained on track, with all competition venues, facilities, and other services for the Games undergoing tests to improve access for the disabled. The organizers sent out warm invitations worldwide when Together for a Shared Future was introduced as the official model of the Games on September the 17th. The preparation was yet another demonstration of China's smooth preparations for the 2022 Games, despite the challenges caused by the coronavirus pandemic. The Olympic flame for the Games landed in China on October the 20th, following a flight from the Greek capital, Athens. The fire was ignited in the traditional lighting ceremony at ancient Olympia before being handed over to the Beijing 2022 organizers. Less than a week later, the official medal design, Chengxin, which means together as one, was revealed during the ceremony celebrating the 100th day countdown to the Games. The medals features the 5 Olympic rings in the center, and the motif is based on Chinese ancient jade concentric circle pendants. And 2021 ends with all 12 competition venues completed and fully meeting the conditions for hosting the Games, while China's capital gears up for the final stage of preparations. to stage the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics.
And the preparations for the Winter Olympics and Paralympics also included many test events at different venues around the Chinese capital. And the Experience Beijing series was held to make sure everything will be ready for the start of the Games.
我们标准台和大跳台的造雪、压雪和塑形工作已经完成，准备通过测试赛呢进行实际检验。
We were able to produce a huge amount of snow, and so we were able to define a really good course for a World Cup start. So we already had our first World Cup race yesterday. It was a really successful speed cross race.
We have a very motivated organizer. We have balancing out the experience. This is a little bit missing at some areas because it's the first timer, so everybody has to learn a little bit. But this was compensated by a lot of motivation, a lot of efforts.
It's an amazing venue. It's a very great and nice present for all sports. The nice track, the ice is in high quality. It's a challenging
pandemic that the world is facing. Safety is our biggest concern, and the measures they have put in to ensure the safety of not only the athletes, officials and everyone who's involved, they've done an excellent job, and we feel very safe in this environment. This is the best venue we will ever have held curling in. It's absolutely first class.
A country with the ambition to bring 300 million people to our sports is an amazing opportunity for our sport. They would be young, they would be digital natives, would be enthusiastic and bring an entirely new dimension to our sport.
Our special year-end program 2021 Sports Are Back moves to a unique introduction of the venues for the Beijing Winter Olympics featuring experimental technology. Check out this immersive tour with Sports Scene's Mike Fox to see where the events will be held and how the water cube was transformed into the ice cube.
Welcome to Beijing, which in February will become the world's first city to host both the Summer and Winter Olympics. Now, the Games in 2008 saw the creation of several new venues around the city, and Beijing 2022 will be no different. And organisers have started 3 competition zones, one in Beijing, another in the city's Yangqing district, and one more in the nearby city of Jiangjiakou. Beijing will host all the ice events, while Jiangjiakou and Yangqing will welcome all the snow events. There are 7 categories of events: skiing, skating, ice hockey, curling, bobsleigh, luge and biathlon, with 109 gold medals on offer, including a further 7 from unprecedented smaller events. They are the women's monobob, the short track speed skating mixed team relay, the ski jumping mixed team, and the freestyle men's and women's skiing big air. Also, we have the freestyle skiing aerials mixed team and the mixed team from the snowboard cross. But that is enough background information for now. Let's actually go inside one of the venues that's going to be used for the Games, the newly named Ice Cube. In 2008, Beijing welcomed everyone by saying "One world, one dream." 14 years later, China's capital will be proclaiming "Together for a shared future," as the legacy from the first Olympics looks set to continue in much colder conditions. Some of the venues are set to be reused, including where I'm standing right now, the Ice Cube, which will host curling, and then at the Winter Paralympic Games 1 month later, wheelchair curling. Excuse me one moment. Not bad. It's been transformed from being the water cube, and underneath me is the 2008 swimming pool, where a certain American swimmer, Michael Phelps, won 8 gold medals. Following the Winter Games, though, it will go back to being the water cube for spring, summer and autumn. But every winter from now on, it will be transformed into being what we're seeing now, the ice cube, where members of the public can come and skate. Okay guys, come on, let's go, 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 come on, faster, faster, let's go! There are also some new venues for the Beijing Winter Olympics, including the ice ribbon where I'm standing right now, which is also known as the National Speed Skating Oval, the only newly constructed arena for the Games. It has the largest all-ice design in Asia, with an ice surface area of 12,000 square meters. It's also the first speed skating venue to use carbon dioxide as a refrigerant at a Winter Games. The skating competitions will see a total of 14 gold medals up for grabs, the most at the event. Hi, you think you could win one of them? Well, good luck. Now to the snow events, most of which are going to be outdoors, obviously. The Yangqing competition area will have 3 sports: alpine skiing, bobsleigh and the luge. The ski centre is located at the 2,198 metre peak of Little Hai Tuo Mountain, where 11 alpine skiing gold medals will be awarded. The only bobsleigh and luge track in the country is also located in this competition area, where 10 bobsleigh and luge gold medals will be won. Hi! Pretty fast. The skiing and Nordic combined competitions will be held in Chongli, which is a district in Zhangjiakou, and an hour high-speed train trip from Beijing. Now, before the Winter Olympics, Chongli has already become a popular skiing resort for the public and will continue to be after the Games. So everything's in place, including the venues, but as always, it's the people that make any Olympics. So let's make Beijing 2022 one to remember together. See ya.
Well, after those skiing and curling tips from our fellow co-host Mike.
I like his action right there.
Definitely, but we're going to have to say goodbye. Before we go, though, a quick recap of the top headlines on Sports Scene's year-end program. 2021 sports are back. Delayed games. Chinese athletes shine at the postponed 2020 Tokyo Summer Olympics that signaled a return of international sporting events. CMG's Top 10, the China Media Group, compiles a list of some of the biggest and most exciting moments from 2021 in the world of sports. And winter is coming. The Beijing Winter Olympics organizers march ahead with preparations for the 2022 Games that begin on February 4th.
And that would do it for this special edition of Sports Scene, and we certainly hope you enjoyed our special year-end story right here. 2021 sports are back.
For myself, Greg Lafredi, Wong Dong, and the entire Sports Scene team, we wish you best luck in the new year. We'll leave you with this video. See you in Beijing.
See you.
我们一定要向前。